Okay, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. Uh, we're talking about aliens today. We're looking at body language, or human behavior, and in this video, I'm reacting to a video done by Spidey, the Behavioral Arts. Go and check him out. Very good channel. He's a magician and mentalist and hypnotist as well, and he's also a body language analyst. So in this video, he's also joined by Scott Rouse, who is one of the world leading body language experts. So I'm putting myself to the test in this one. So the video we're reacting to, or I'm reacting to, is Aliens in Vegas, Truth or Hoax. So it's an interesting one. So as I say, I'm no expert. I'm studying human behavior and body language, and best way to learn is to put it to the test. So that's what I'm doing. I've got my notes. It's broken down into various clips. So let's get into it. First of all, we're going to have
After a
Spidey's
strange
intro.
object was seen falling from the sky in Las Vegas, the police got a strange call, and eyewitness testimonies claimed to have seen aliens running around in their backyard. But what do the body language and word choice tell us about what really happened? Was this really an alien sighting, or is there more to the story? Let's jump right in. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Behavioral Arts. My name is Spidey, and I use my degree in sociology and psychology, my certifications in body language analysis and criminal interrogation, and over 10 years experience as an award-winning mentalist to teach people behavioral analysis and practical psychology on stages and television shows all over the world. This week, a very special guest and I are looking at a UFO sighting in Las Vegas. So I'm going to give you really quickly the events and what happened, and then I'm going to bring my guest in, and we are going to be looking at the body language, but most importantly, the word choice of the 911 call and what it reflects in terms of what really may have happened. So a couple of days ago, a news report went massively viral online, getting millions of views. Although the event happened about a month ago, it just hit the news cycle a couple of days ago. So the event happened in early May in Las Vegas, where the police got a phone call from a guy who was working with his brother and his father in their backyard, and he alleges that they saw something crash land, and moments later, it's a little unclear how much later, but later saw aliens in their backyard. One of them was inside what he describes to be a piece of equipment. Later, it's found out that he was talking about a front loader construction truck, and the alien was in there, and another alien was standing outside the truck looking at him. Police arrived on site about half an hour after the phone call was placed, and we get a little bit of that footage. There really isn't much to look at, but police did not find any evidence of vessels or beings on that property. Now, although nobody besides the members of this family could corroborate seeing aliens, they were not the only ones who witnessed something falling out of the sky. There is body cam footage from that same night of something falling from the sky, and there is footage from a camera where we hear a loud crash. Now, typically on the channel, we look at footage of things where we can look at the body language, because I've spent a heck of a lot of time studying the way we move and what it might reveal about stress or emotions or the way someone is feeling or thinking. In this case, we don't have a whole ton of footage. There's certainly a bit, but the main thing we're looking at.
So that's what I've been studying as well. So yeah, it's interesting, and so far, I mean, that thing coming out of the sky looks very much like a meteorite to me. But let's get into it.
Here today is the context around all of this, as well as that phone call. A big part of what I do with behavioral analysis is to pay attention to what's said and how it's said. So we're going to dive a lot into that. But I also wanted someone to chime in here who has a lot of experience with law enforcement and statement analysis, and who has heard a lot of 911 calls, who can help us analyze that as well. So I've brought in a very special guest. All right, my very exciting guest today is the author of the book, Understanding Body Language, one of my absolute favorites. He trains law enforcement and military in interrogation and body language, and he is the creator of the #1 selling online body language course, bodylanguagetactics.com. Here he is, my friend, Scott Rouse.
So I also have that book. I will leave the link in the description below. Well worth reading, very easy to read as well. So yeah, I have that book. It's up there somewhere. And I'll leave the link in the description below.
Hey, Ed, thanks for having me.
My pleasure.
I can't tell you how excited I am to be here because we talk on the phone all the time and text and stuff. But I really appreciate it, man, because this is my favorite body language channel. We all, as you know, because you know all of us in the behavior panel, we're all the time talking about you and
back and forth. It's so funny because, like, you know, I'll get people to say to me something like, hey, those panel guys said something that you said, or they'll tell me the opposite, like, oh, you said something they already said. And I'm like, yeah, we're all friends. We talk about this stuff.
Yeah, we know. We all talk about that.
Yeah, hey, it's based on we studied the same stuff. We talk about this.
So now piecing together the sequence of events has been kind of...
Okay, so as we go through this, what I'm going to do is watch the clip. I'm going to stop the clip before they tell us what they see, and I'm going to tell you what I've seen first. So that way I'm not repeating what they've said. And we'll see if I come up with the same things, if I come up with things that are different, or if I miss things. I'll probably miss things, to be fair. So yeah, let's give it a go.
Ricky, in part because the primary witnesses have been almost as elusive as the beings they say they encountered.
Okay, what's going on over there?
Okay, lady. Me, my dad, and my brother, we're working on a truck in our backyard, and we have a big lot outside, right? Correct?
Okay.
We were working, and we just see in a corner of our eye something fall down from the sky, and it was with light. And when it hit down, it was like a big impact, and we felt it. We felt like an energy, and then we hear like a lot of footsteps near us, and then we have a big equipment, and we see, and there's like an 8-foot person beside it, and another one beside it, and it has big eyes and looking at us, and it's still there.
I'm gonna leave.
Okay, so a few things that I found interesting. The way he started the phone call. First off, he let her ask the entire question. He didn't interrupt. Secondly, the way he starts. Okay, lady. What's that? Like, you've just seen a UFO come out the sky with a crash, and you're making an emergency call, and you start with "Okay, lady." Interesting. And he sounds very, very calm as well. Very calm. And he was very descriptive. He laid the scene. He wasn't panicked. He wasn't rushing to get out what he had seen. Where he says energy, there was an upward inflection. So sort of asking for approval. And he is very, very calm. There's no excitement there. You've just seen a UFO crash land or whatever, and you're so calm. He's so calm and collected, and like there's no excitement there. That's what Scott and Spidey have come up with.
Leave a link in the description to the Behavior Panel channel. This is a body language channel. Scott, you're part of this channel. You guys discuss body language, lie detection, and we're all very clear, whether it's on this channel or the panel, that lie detection is not an exact science.
I'm a big fan of the behavior panel. That's where my studies all started, actually, with the behavior panel. So I will do the same and leave the link in the description below to both Spideys and the behavior panel.
There's a lot that goes into it. There isn't a single thing you could see that makes you go, that person's lying. However, what's really interesting to me is that research has shown that we are intuitively more effective at detecting deception by hearing more than seeing. So we get a lot of clues and cues in what people say. And so, yes, there's a handicap here. We can't see this guy telling this story or calling the cops, and that might give us extra clues, but there's certainly some stuff happening with the statements and what he's saying that make me curious. And Scott, I want to start with this. You work with law enforcement. You've heard endless police phone calls. How often would you say you've heard a phone call where someone calls the police where something's happening now? There's a burglar, there's a something in their house, on their property, and they start that conversation by describing at great length the details of their backyard and what they were doing and who they were with. How often does that happen?
It doesn't happen very often, but when it does, that's a heads up. That's a huge red flag. That's when you say, whoops, something's not right here, because that's not the way you react during an emergency.
Yeah, got that one.
Your brain doesn't let you do that. Doesn't let you start wide and then start zeroing in on what the problem is. So one of the most important things that I always look for and pay attention to are the things that are missing. And what's missing here is emotion, true emotion. There's no terror here. There's no horror. There's no, listen to me. You got, I need some help. None of that.
That's exactly what I was saying. Very, very calm. So I got that one.
We don't hear any emotion in the background. If something like that, if there's a monster in the backyard, somebody's going to be hollering. And if your mother's in the house, which we saw in the video, which we see later on, you may hear her screaming. Somebody keep an eye on mom. There's a lot of things that are missing from this. We're not hearing the things we're supposed to be hearing. We're not hearing him say, send somebody over here. I need some help, which is the reason you have 911. And that's why you call, because you need help. What do you think about that?
Love it. And I completely agree. There's, I think, even on an intuitive level, we're missing that panic. And there's even more clues to the lack of panic. For example, the responder gets to complete her initial sentence.
Got that one.
She's like, what's going on over there? He lets her finish that sentence, then pause, then he starts to talk. Whereas it's not like he cuts her off to say, oh my God, hurry, we need help, we need something. So she finishes her entire sentence. He starts his sentence with an intake of breath and the words, okay, lady. So we hear this, okay, lady, before he starts. Now, I'm very familiar with this okay. When we watch amateur or new magicians perform, we very often hear this okay right in the beginning of their presentation. So you're going to see something like, okay, so I have some cards here. Okay, I got some coins here. And this okay is kind of a really quick, here we go. Pay attention. I'm starting now. So this okay is a nervous beginning of presentation. Now, what's interesting about this is in French, we also see this a lot. So in French magicians, I very often see them start with alors or donc, which is like a so. It's kind of like a transition of like, so here we go. But whatever language this person speaks, I wonder if that's baseline, to start with this kind of donc or okay or this so, whatever it is. So maybe it's normal for him to start with that, or he needs a second to collect his thoughts. It's possible. I'm not saying it's for sure deception, but it's bizarre how he starts with, okay, lady. The next thing that caught my attention is something that I've heard you guys talk about. Greg talks about this a lot. Joe Navarro has written about this. And it's basically, he talks about this vessel falling, right? This thing fell. And then he goes, and then, and starts talking about these aliens that he's seeing. But there's a lot missing between those two things. Like, what is that and then? So, and then is called a verbal bridge. It allows us to hide chunks of a story, right? If I say,
I missed that.
I was at the office and then I drove home. I could hide stuff in that. Like, what's going on between the office and home? So maybe he's just trying to get to the punch. I understand that. But it's just so, like, what happened to the vessel? Where'd the vessel go?
That's why I think there's been a time lapse in this. That's why I think this has been squished down to, there's a phone call. Here's the 911 call. But they don't tell us how long it was since the event happened before this guy makes the phone call. So I think there's a lot of time in there. This guy's creating time, like you were saying earlier, with a verbal bridge, and then, but I think that's why there was time between those things. A lot of times, what you'll do in an interrogation when you see that, you'll say, "Hang on just a minute. Let's talk about the end then." So what'd you do? You went in the store. Tell me what happened. We did this, and then I went over this. So let's talk about the end then. And you get in there, you start. It's like a little micro interrogation. You get in there and you start prying into those little things and see what's going on in that time they've created.
Absolutely. Love that. And the reason that's great also is because things are going to start to get very clear, because someone who actually experienced something, if you go, hold on, let's go here and work our way back. Okay, but now let's jump to this point and move our way forward. Somebody who actually lived that can do that, no problem, because in their head they go, okay, I can go right to that moment. Whereas somebody who made it up is going to have such a hard time navigating that because they have to remember this narrative that they completely made up.
And that's why you always hear he knows the story backwards and forwards, because as the story goes along, the sections, we went here, we started here at this point, and then after that, this happened. These are all connected by emotions. So when something happens, so that's why it's easy to flow. Yeah, a lot of times what I call loping, we kind of lope right along and you talk about whatever it is. But when it's what you want to do is to you never say to someone, all right, well, let's start at the beginning or at the end and go forward. You have to sneak it in on them when you do that, because it's a great tactic to use. You can't say, well, let me start from the end and go back to the beginning. You have to start somewhere toward where they at the end and say, what happened before that? What happened just before that? You said you went to this place, then you scooch down here and go, so what happened when you were down at this place? And so you go backwards without giving them the heads up that you're going backwards. That's a key. It's a great.
In the beginning, she says that they've tried to contact them, this family, and they're not taking calls. They're not answering any questions. And for me, that's kind of bizarre. You're calling the police. You're willing to talk to them when they show up. You saw something unique. Why aren't you getting the story out there? So is someone trying to silence them? Is it by their own choice that they don't want to talk about this? I don't know, but I have some questions there. Let's keep going to see where that goes.
Okay, where is this on your property?
In my backyard. I swear to God, this is not a joke. This is actually we terrified of it.
So there's two people or two subjects that are in your backyard?
Correct, and they're very large. They're like 8 foot, 9 feet, 10 foot. I don't know. They look like aliens to us. Big eyes. They have big eyes, like I can't explain it, and big mouth. They're shiny eyes, and they're not human. They're 100% they're not human.
So Scott.
Okay, so what have I got here? Where she says, where is this on the property? There's a lot of and he's having to think about it. I would have thought that if you've got aliens on your property or a monster on your property, you're going to know exactly where that thing is. And again, he's very calm on the phone. Bearing in mind, if this thing's an alien and it's between 8 and 10 foot, you're going to be frightened. You're going to be scared. It's a big threat to you, isn't it? So you're going to know where that thing is, or at least the proximity of it, like the general place of it. So that's a bit of a red flag for me. Again, there's no urgency, and he says, I swear to God, it's not a joke. Why would he say that? He is making an emergency phone call. Okay, it's unbelievable, but the fact that he's so calm and he says, I swear to God, it's not a joke. It's like he's begging her to believe him. If there was some urgency there, I would take it as, okay, he knows that like this is unbelievable, and he's trying to emphasize, like, I swear to God, this isn't a joke. This is actually happening. But going, I swear to God, it's not a joke. Yeah, I don't see why. Well, I do. I do see why he would say that, but yeah, not very convincing. And then we come to the size of it. He starts off with it's 8 feet, then 9, then 10. So which is it? It's I mean, like there's 2 foot. There's quite a big difference. And then he says they look like aliens. So what do aliens look like? The only reference we've really got is sci-fi movies, isn't it? So yeah, I'm not too convinced so far. Not too convinced so far. Let's see what Scott and Spidey come up with.
I have a big question for you that I love to ask interrogators or behavioral analysts, and it's the following. We hear in there he says, swear to God. We get this swear to God. And I've known a lot of interrogators who give quite a bit of importance to a sudden appeal to religion. When out of the blue, because he hasn't set up until this point, I don't have a baseline on this guy, but he hasn't set up until this point, and all of a sudden we get this swear to God out of nowhere. A lot of interrogators give that importance, but I've spoken to some who don't. What are your views on that? Is that something you take note of? Is it something you care about? What do you make of when somebody evokes religion?
Okay. Quite often when someone, there's no reason to bring up God into it. Why would you bring up God? I wouldn't think, you wouldn't have to swear to God to have you believe me, because I'm telling you the truth. I wouldn't need to do that. I wouldn't feel the need to do that. A lot of times you'll hear that they'll lean on that to say, I'm a God-fearing person. A lot of cons start off with that. They'll tell you how religious they are and how much they love God and how Jesus and them are really tight. When somebody brings up, I swear to God, really quick like that, that's one thing. If they say, I swear to God, that's when I think, let's take that a little more seriously. Most of the time I just throw it out because it's just a lot of people say that. We don't know we don't have a baseline on him yet that's worth anything. So like you were saying, you're right. It's tough to say. Does they say it every 5 minutes or every 3 sentences? What's happened with this guy? So in this case, it's kind of slung out there. So it sounds like it sounds like he uses it quite often because there's no punch on God. He didn't say, I swear to God. He said, I swear to God, we didn't do whatever. Just swearing.
Yeah, totally agreed. So there's 2 contexts in which I almost ignore swear to God. One is if I feel like it's something the person says a lot as a figure of speech. And there are people out there, swear to God, swear to God, swear to God. They just say that a lot. So I'll ignore that. But also there's another context in which I pretty much ignore this. And it's when someone is either being not believed, like someone is telling them, I don't believe what you're saying, or they fear not being believed. He's making a phone call about an alien. So even if this is happening, he knows that this woman may not believe him. So it seems reasonable to me that there will be, I swear to God, like I know this sounds crazy. I wouldn't believe it myself.
So I agree with Spidey there and Scott. But do you see how even Spidey, when he's emphasizing it, he adds some urgency to it, whereas this guy doesn't. This guy is completely calm, and I think that's possibly where the difference is.
But swear to God, it's real. So yeah, in certain places I go, that was weird. That didn't belong there. But if someone says it a lot, or they're talking about something that's hard to believe, there I give less attention to it. So yeah, I'm okay with it here.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause it's almost thrown out, it's like part of the, I know it's crazy. Yeah, I swear to God, this happened. So yeah, I would agree with that. She has to ask too many questions about what's happening. This guy should have puked all this up right out of the gate.
That's true.
And it should have focused on, there's a monster in the backyard. There's an alien in the backyard. There's something in my backyard. And again, what's missing is the emotion that the threat is there. He's not focused on the threat. He says it's still back there. He says they're still back there, but he doesn't know exactly where. If there's an alien in your backyard, man, if something like that happened, you know exactly where that thing was. You know exactly where it was because that's the threat. Yeah. And your brain goes, where's the threat? Let's keep an eye on that. Somebody walks up to you with a gun, sticks it in your face. You don't see their face.
I've got that one. I swear to God, but I will bow down to them. They're experts. I'm not. I'm studying. So fair enough.
it's really tough to describe somebody that stuck a gun in your face because you're looking at the gun. Your brain goes where the threat is. And he's not focusing enough on the threat. He's not saying, you got to get over here, bring the army, bring somebody. There's these guys from outer space, man. I don't know. This is really starting to sound loose.
Let's talk
Yeah.
about two quick things. First, I want everyone watching to put a pin in one of the statements that he said. He said 8 foot, 9 foot, 10 foot. I don't know. So there's this range. We have this range and he's uncertain. The other thing I want to talk about in this phone call is the structure of story. So there's a great book about deception called Lie Spotting by Pamela Meyer. This is a terrific one. I go to this quite often. I'll leave a link in the description for that one as well. And in this, she talks about how, as a generalization, truth tellers and liars tend to structure a story. Now, please don't take this to mean that this is always. Like, if this happens, you always know someone's telling the truth or being deceptive. This is just a benchmark, and it's a pretty good one. So truth tellers will often give you a very quick prologue. They kind of breeze through it to set the scene. Then they get to the main event and focus a lot on that. That's the main thing. That's where they would focus the most. And then with truth tellers, you get a little bit of an epilogue, like what they felt afterwards. So again, in this case, it's somewhere out there, I'm scared, please send help. So you would get that little bit of an epilogue. Again, as a generalization, liars tend to shift things around a little bit. You get a big prologue because this is the part where they can be honest. So they take a lot of time setting the scene and give you details there because they feel like they're almost getting truth credits. You know what I mean? Like, I could be honest about this part. Then again, as a generalization, they quickly breeze over the main event. This is the part where they don't want you asking too many questions. So they give it to you really quickly. And usually it lacks emotional depth. And very often liars don't have an epilogue. They can't.
So in the story we've just been listening to, using this as a framework, there was a lot of focus right at the start of the phone call on setting the scene. And then he sped up over the story, and there is no epilogue at all so far. So, let me know what you think down in the comments below. At this stage, which one do you think the story? Where do you think the story sits, on the truth or the lie? For me, it's sitting on the lie.
Can't tell you what happened afterwards because the thing never happened. So that's usually a pretty big sign if they don't give you the afterthought of what they thought afterwards. Now, if we look at this story structure, it's not that obvious. We do have a pretty big prologue where he's saying, I was in the backyard, I was working on the car, I'm a big yard with my brother and my dad. That's a little too much for me. The main event isn't bad though. We're getting some emotion there. He's saying we're terrified. He's saying, I saw this. Like, he's talking quite a bit about this alien. So that main event is quite elaborate.
Obviously, Spidey's a mentalist. He's probably more fine-tuned to picking up on emotion than what I am. But I'm not picking up on any emotion there at all. He seems ultra calm. He doesn't seem scared. There's no fear, no panic. He's really, really calm. So,
and then there isn't much of an epilogue, but I wouldn't expect one because this is happening in real time. The monster is still there. So that structure is a little tricky, but that prologue is just a little bit too much for me. The other thing Pamela Meyer talks about in the book and quotes a few studies to back this up is that liars often lack sensory experience of the story that they're telling. And as a mentalist, I could tell you this is quite often the case. So as a mentalist, Scott, you've seen me do my thing when I do my show, the mind reading stuff. By the way, you have the best reactions. With mentalism, often what happens is, like, in my show, I might tell someone, okay, tell me a story that's true and the one that's not. And then, I'm going to figure out which one it is. This is the type of thing we often see mentalists do. And I've often noticed that when someone's making something up that didn't happen, it's often lacking sensory description. I saw this, I felt that, I smelled this. They're telling you more of like a storybook version, like they're trying to paint a picture, but it's lacking that experience. In this case, I feel like we got quite a bit of what he was feeling in that moment. It may not have been enormously, but there was enough for me to go, the language sounds like he is to a certain degree reliving something. So it's somewhere in the middle. It's not quite him painting a picture, and it's not quite him fully experiencing it, but it has notes of each. So it was really interesting for me.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think something happened. I think maybe they did see that thing, something bright or whatever crash out of the side of their eye or whatever. And then maybe they did hear a bang. Maybe they did hear a crash and all that. But I think that's when you get to the point at that section, that's when things start. That's when you get the end ends. So they start creating time, or the guy starts creating time in there and starts putting.
Yeah, that's what I think as well. I think they did see something. Well, there's a video footage of something coming out the sky. To me, it looks like a meteorite from other footage that I've seen of meteorites. So yeah, I think they saw that, they heard a big bang, and then the story started coming out. So, or developing.
I don't know. I'm not going to say I hate to say he's making stuff up, but boy, it sure sounds. This story has a lot of holes in it so far. It's not looking good.
We're going to keep going, but that's pretty much exactly where I'm at as well. I think something happened, and this reminds me of like in elementary school when a whole bunch of kids run up to the teacher and they're all worked up and they go, and then this, and then that, and then that, and then this. But what you're getting is one spokesperson to convey a shared experience. So something happened. He said, "Oh, did you see that? There's a thing in the truck. Oh my God, something moved over there." And so I think I heard something. And they're just compiling all this and confabulating this story that's a little bit of here and a little bit of there, and I think becomes a for sure. And I might have become an I did. And I think this guy is the designated teller to the police of all these elements that came together and are transforming into a story.
Yeah, because when we start looking at the video, we're going to see some things missing from that, which is exactly what you're talking about. The things that are missing from this situation that we should be seeing.
An hour after that bright light, officers meeting up with the caller and his family.
What'd you see?
It was like a big creature.
A big creature?
Yeah, like around 10 feet tall.
I'm not going to BS you guys. One of my partners said they saw something fall out of the sky too, so that's why I'm kind of curious. Did you see anything land in your backyard, or
they see like a big? That's what they say. They see like a big something with light.
Scott, I have a question.
Okay, so what have I got for this one? So they all appear to be very calm, considering there's meant to be a 8 to 10 foot monster running around the property. They're all very calm. The mum comes out after the fact. They're all stood there. We're looking quite comfortable with their arms crossed. It could be cold. Generally, crossing of the arms doesn't really mean it too much. It's different if they're gripping or self-hugging, but just sat with your arms crossed could just mean that it's a comfort thing. It could be cold. They're outside. They could be cold. The young lad takes a step away from the group just as he crosses his arms. So does that indicate that he's not overly comfortable being the one to talk, possibly? And then when the dad starts talking, he raises his arms up, and then he says, "This is what they say. This is what they've said." So he's totally distanced himself from it, and he's put the entire story on the two lads, which is quite telling, I think. So let's see what Scott and Spidey has to say.
For you.
Okay, what is it?
So I saw, as the police officer was approaching the family, that the gentleman on the left crossed his arms. And I read an article online that said that if someone suddenly crosses their arms in a conversation, it's because they're being deceptive. So for sure, this kid is being deceptive as the cop is coming, because we see him cross his arms, right?
Well, let's talk about that, because like we always make fun. Well, we don't. I shouldn't say we make fun of people that say.
I make fun of it.
But you have, well, I do too, but I don't want to call anybody out specifically because we call those the Google body language experts. They just Google stuff and they go out and tell everybody they're an expert, you know? So the thing is about crossing your arms. Quite often, most people, they'll read somewhere, they'll see it in a movie or they'll see it in a magazine. That crossing your arms means that you're turned off. You're not into what that person has to say. You're not into what's happening. And that's an absolute. That means every time you see that, it means one specific thing. And there are no absolutes. This means it could mean I'm cold. It could mean it's more comfortable for me to be this way, to put my arms this way. It could mean a million different things. And 90% of the time when you're in a situation like this, it means absolutely nothing. There are no absolutes. Just because somebody scratches their nose, you've always heard, oh, that's deceptive. I mean, no, it doesn't. Not at all, not even a little bit. You look for things in clusters. If you see one thing, a little shoulder shrug, and then they back up a little bit and their voice gets quieter, that's a cluster of three things. So you could say, something might be up here. It doesn't mean they're being deceptive. It's just you say, I'm going to start paying attention to what's going on here because I saw three things that suggest there may be something going on here, that there's an issue here.
That's terrific. Couldn't agree more. Now, we could take note of it in this case because there's a change. He's standing one way, the cop approaches and he crosses his arms. So maybe it might be a small question mark to go, okay, something changed there. But like you said, crossed arms, sometimes it's just comfortable. It's just more comfortable to stand that way. You know, we're not seeing like a hard gripping like this. We're not seeing a self-hug. We're not seeing him turtle inwards. There's not much else going on. I want to note that now the 8 or 9 or 10 feet from earlier has become 10 feet. And this is what I was talking about earlier. I think there are elements of this story that are evolving. There is a ton of research. We know this, that with time, our memory becomes less and less reliable. As we try to think back, things change, things shift. Our imagination adds things. Other stories come in and add things. Our memory is built for survival, not accuracy. So especially in cases like this, where there's a whole bunch of people inputting information. So if when he's going 8, 9, 10 feet, I don't know. And now we've gone to the most extreme of that range. Now we're at 10 feet. I mean, it does say around, but it's still like we're more confident about that higher end of that bracket.
Yeah. And another thing that we're missing here, nobody's looking around for this 10-foot monster. Yeah. If there's a 10-foot monster and because nobody's talked about him leaving, nobody said, well, you know, the thing took off, they climbed back in. We're on the impression it was, you know, what are we supposed to think? Nobody's looking around. Not one person in that video is looking around. Not one person's keeping an eye on their mother. She came out last. And they're all sort of far apart. When there's a threat, you sort of get to, you group up a little bit because that's what we do as humans. Your brain goes, there's something wrong here, man. Look out. Let's keep an eye on what's happening. We don't see any of that here. They're not looking for the threat. They're not looking for this 10-foot monster that was in the backyard a few minutes ago. So that's something else that really, that's another big hole in their story there.
Great point. And another thing for me is I'm going to go ahead and assume that gentleman in the background is the father, because I mean, this is pretty late night, so it's unlikely to have a whole bunch of house guests. And he's describing this scene by saying, this is what they said. So they saw this thing fall from the sky, the vessel with the lights. This is what they said. So he's putting it on them. So he was there as well. He was on site. If it is the father, he was working on the car with them outside, and he didn't see this thing. It's kind of weird. Like, how close was it and how loud was it that he's going, no, they're the ones who are saying this. I didn't witness this. Wouldn't he have? I mean, they're going to go on to describe some pretty specific things. Wouldn't he have seen that? And another thing is this. Why is the dad focusing on the vessel? Once again, you know, you keep coming back to this, and I fully agree. There was and probably still is a 10-foot monster either in or around our house. Why is the father focusing on what they saw fall out of the sky? That's not the emergency. The emergency is there are aliens here. That's like, let's say your house is being burglarized, right? And the cops get there. You're not going to tell them the car that the burglar showed up in. You know, like, oh, Scott said it was a red Honda Civic. No, tell me about the thing that's more urgent. So why isn't the father, first chance he gets, saying, yeah, look, we saw this alien. They saw this alien. It's still around. Let's go find the thing.
One of the witnesses.
Yeah, it's there's so many, as Scott says, so many holes in this story.
A young man named Angel has stated when the brothers looked into the yard where the object landed, that spot was obscured and blurry, as if by unknown form of camouflage. He got a good look at one of the creatures, he said, a greenish-grayish being with large eyes and long legs. He says he could hear its deep breaths. The family says they also saw men in suits and sunglasses driving in a car with government plates cruising slowly past the house in the following days.
So I'm sure we've seen a movie like that. People driving around in suits with dark glasses at night, called Men in Black, isn't it? Right, so what have I got here? So in the caption, it says, "You can see a big mouth." Well, I can't see it. I didn't see the alien. Why didn't you say I could see a big mouth? You're the one that saw it. Why didn't you say I? First person pronoun. Why did you use a third person pronoun or a second person pronoun? First point. So there's also a discrepancy between what the reporter's saying and what the actual article is reading. So I'm not quite sure what's going on there. I think the news are trying to add their spin on it. And there's still no urgency in the whole thing. So, yeah. Come on in, let's see what they have to say.
Here is different than what we're seeing that was written. What the phone call guy actually said, or what was reported actually says. So if you'll read what's being said and listen to the narrator, to the news guy, they're not two completely different things, but they don't quite lock up with each other. And that's just one of those little bitty, all these things when you conflate a story, when you exaggerate something, you're trying to make a specific point or look a specific way, you just pepper little things in there with it to make it shinier, make it smell better, make it look better. And that's what this is happening here. I think from the beginning, when we've heard the news people talking, they're trying to make it look a specific way and look, here's what happened. It crashed in the backyard. These things crawled out. They're crawling over the house, and the kid sees them and does this, and it's not that, but that's the picture it leaves in your mind. As an entrepreneur, when I train entrepreneurs in pitching, that's the key is to build a picture in their mind that they can pop out of their head and give to somebody else as you're talking about what you're pitching. So when that person goes home and they talk to their wife or their husband, they go, you're going to spend $1.2 million on what? You're going to invest in what? They have to be able to pop that little picture out and then put it in their head. So it has to be very clean and clear. And that's what the news guy is doing. He's making this very clean and very clear that something crashed in their backyard and they got out and these guys saw it. It sounds like the whole family saw it, but obviously they didn't. They didn't see it crash. They went to the backyard and saw this fuzzy situation or blurry situation there. It's just being enhanced. They're enhancing the story so it makes a better story.
No, I won't have it that the media manipulates stories.
So that's bugging me too. This thing just isn't sounding right. One more thing. That's when he's talking about being so close to the alien that he can see it breathing and hear it breathing.
Yeah.
There's no terror there. How long are you going to stand there when you run up on something like that and you can see it and hear it breathing? It's going to scare you to death. You're going to leave.
Yeah.
And that's going to be one of the first things out of your mouth. When you call 911, there's a monster in the backyard. That's where your focus is going to be, not where you're out in the, like you were saying, right out of the gate, Spy. You're out of the gate when he goes wide and starts bringing it into what happened. This thing, I want to believe these guys so bad because there's got to be other things going on out there. There's got to be stuff going on. But in this cat's backyard, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure about this right now. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. And you touched on the fact that like if you were close enough to see the thing breathe, like that's terrifying. And that would be in that phone call. For me, it's also very unclear how close he was to this thing, right? Because on the phone call, it seems like it was off in the distance. One was in the truck, one was by the truck. Now all of a sudden we have this quote where he can hear the thing breathe. That's close as heck. So quoting him here directly on the screen, but it's unclear when this happened. But again, it's what I said earlier. In time, this story became a lot more concrete. And we're seeing that evolve. The phone call is different from when the cops show up, which is different from this quote that we have. Yet, if we think back, the father didn't even see the aliens.
Okay, so I'm going to give my conclusion before they give theirs. So I certainly think something happened. The thing falling out the sky, which I believe is a meteorite. I think that the young lads have seen this. They've heard a crash, and either their imaginations have got away with them, or they've decided to come up with this story. There is certainly some scenes from some movies, the description of the alien itself, and the Men in Black driving round afterwards. So, yeah, I am not convinced by this story. So, do I think this story is real or a hoax? I'm going along the lines of hoax on this one. So that's how I feel about it. There's no urgency there. There's no panic, no terror. The story changes as we go along. So yeah, I'm going to go hoax. Let's see what the others have to say.
Didn't even see the vessel. He's just saying these guys saw a vessel. Now all of a sudden we have an alien within feet of the person who's telling the story. Further, why aren't there any pictures or videos of this? So one of them is saying, all right, I'm going to go call the cops. And on that phone call, we're hearing him say, it's still there. Like these things are still there. Why at no point in this whole thing did somebody grab a phone and record this? So that was my main question. At some point in the report, they said that the reporter said that he spoke to Angel, who said he has footage, but he's not showing anyone.
We've been told by Angel in multiple phone conversations that he shot video of the creatures. We haven't seen it, and we don't know anybody else who's seen it yet, so maybe he'll release it at some point.
So he's not showing anyone, he's not answering questions. And Scott, I don't know if you heard, but there's government cars with people in suits and sunglasses driving on. The Men in Black are there. The Men in Black are circling the neighborhood.
Yeah, it's too bad. Yeah, that's this.
Clearly, I'm not the only one who thought Men in Black when they said that. Then
started to sound like a movie. You know, they're adding stuff it's too much at this point. And that the guy that's with the white hair that's talking, I've seen this cat before, man. Most of the time, this guy, no matter what the UFO sighter says, this cat backs him up. You know, and he's saying, well, where's the footage? You know, if you've got it, maybe we'll see it. So I don't know.
Even the believer is skeptical.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, maybe he's just waiting and he's being nice about it, you know.
Scott, let me ask you this. You literally train government and law enforcement in nonverbal communication. If you're going to send a car of agents to survey a neighborhood, would you tell them to wear sunglasses and suits?
No, they'd be and they'd look like they were looking for a yard to mow. That's what it would look like. You know, so nobody knew what they were doing. Nobody drives around like that except in movies. You know, who does that? Nobody does that. So this isn't right, man. This doesn't smell right. And I got a big nose. I would know.
So Scott, I think we peppered this in throughout the analysis in looking at this, but like in a nutshell, quickly, what are your final thoughts? What do you think? Is this something we're getting that's truthful, or is there some deception here according to what you feel?
I've seen a little bit of everything in this. So I think something happened. I think they saw possibly what the cop saw on his camera, on his body cam. They probably saw something happen. They probably heard something heard something crash or make a bang. But after that, I'm not sure, because their dad was supposed to be with them. But where was Dad? He's coming out saying, they saw this stuff. And nobody talks about when it left. It's not there. And then what happened when it left? Nobody says that. And again, nobody's looking for the threat. That's what bugs me. Nobody's addressing that. Nobody's pointing. Nobody's looking around. Nobody looks nervous. Nothing. They're just all just standing there talking to the cop.
Yes, sir. I'm with you on that. So again, I think it's all about frequencies. I think the moment they saw that thing out the sky, these are people who are prone to believe in aliens and things like that. So they saw that and they set their mind to a certain frequency. Something weird is going on around here. From that point in time on, they were more tuned in to, if we go out at night in my backyard and we're tuned into that frequency, something's back here, a little rustling, a little movement, we're going to think that that's all connected to each other because we're looking for that thing. So I believe that's what it is. I believe, like you said, exactly, something happened. They were tuned into that frequency. Something's going on. Oh my God, what's going on? From that point in time on, something could have happened. I think something did. I think something, they saw something, a movement, someone, and they just started adding to the narrative. Oh, it might be, it's pretty tall. It might be 8 foot. Half an hour later, it's 10 feet. A couple of days later, I saw it breathe. I heard it on the roof. So all these different things are coming in that weren't quite there during the phone call. So I think that's exactly what this is. Of course, neither of us know. We don't know. Could this be real? Could there have been aliens in their backyard? Could it be that government agents came and covered it up, got rid of the vessel? Could it be that someone's asking them not to talk? That's why we can't see the video. It's all possible. I think that this is based in truth, but it's not entirely what happened.
And you know what else I didn't think of? That just hit me. If this cat had video of this, that'd be the first look. Here's what it looks like. They'd be showing video of it. He would say, "Here's what it looks like. Here's what's going on back there." Nothing. Nobody. And that it's like even on the body cam, the guy would be saying, "Hey man, look, this is what it looked like. This thing's dang 10 feet tall. Check this out." No, nothing. So
great call. That's so good. That's brilliant because you could tell like the news reporters you don't want to show it because the government is silencing them or something. Fine, but why didn't he show the cop the moment the cop got there? Brilliant. That's why you're here. That's why everyone needs to go buy this book. Scott, I want to thank you so much for joining us. This has been a long.
Okay. How did I do? Let me know in the comments below. I think I got a fair bit of the same as what they got. Obviously, they got more, but they're experts, and I'm not. I'm learning. So I don't think I did too badly. And at the end of it, we all come to the same conclusion. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I will leave the links to both the behavior panel and the behavioral arts in the description below. And I will also leave the link to Scott Rouse's book in the comments below. So in the description below. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again in the next one. Apparently it's firework night. It is the 7th of October, so Christ knows what's going on out there.